Our paper presents a focused reflection on participatory design about, through, and with emerging technologies of automation, exploring how they might be considered as actors and juxtaposed against the concept of stakeholders in participatory design engagements. In our paper, technologies of automation include artificial intelligence, machine learning, and algorithms. Many of the currently imagined or propagated algorithmic futures are pre-designed, anticipatory, and frictionless, where citizens are reduced to patterns of data in automatized and modulated governance processes. Algorithmic decision-making is increasingly embedded in and across the public and private systems, often functioning like a black box. We need more participatory imagining and designing of such systems. This requires us to address complex new questions that challenge earlier theories and methods within participatory design, such as:
how can we determine participation and social action in these algorithmic futures?
Who are the actual actors, users and stakeholders of the automated systems?
How do we envision the new social, technological, and also evolutionary forms in the fully automated future?
How might we overcome our current anxieties about the end of politics and history in such a managed yet illegible world?
Design algorithmic creatures around principles of pluralism, justice, equity, and care.
We're not trying to answer all of these questions. Rather, we draw on the growing problematizing of prevalent human-centered values, overemphasizing individual needs and universal solutions, in order to explore the possible ways of thinking about and living with dynamic systems, whether they be algorithmic or otherwise. We hope this will help us reimagine participatory design from the perspective of dynamic, relational, and non-binary social technical systems, and really open up new questions for theory and practice. We present 3 examples that work with the paradox of automation and participation in different scales and forms, namely games, smart cities, and makerspaces, to explore issues around social and individual agency in algorithmic futures. Across fields, there's more and deeper thinking about the role of the otherwise, of the human, non-human, the post-human, and the more than human. These perspectives require decentering of the human, rendering worlds that are off-kilter, out of sync, and out of step with historical views predicated on the importance and centrality of the typically white male liberal individual, valorized through European Enlightenment understandings of modernity, science, and progress. And as complex cyber-physical systems are increasingly embedded in everyday lives of many, we observe in our own design or other engagements with complex socio-technical systems the need for new perspectives to understand the other than humans and their roles in co-creating systems that have no center to begin with, or more broadly, more than human worlds with shifting assemblages. In these worlds, non-human actors can be understood as having the potential for agency, but this doesn't prescribe that they do have agency vis-a-vis human actors in every instance. Suchman's concept of situated action has been foundational to design research for the last several decades, and situated action was understood to be the domain of human actors beholden to the plans of corporate bureaucracies and embedded in software and hardware systems. Today, dynamic algorithmic systems are acting based on real-time data in ways that are sometimes not aligned with or actively against the plans of humans, and even sometimes beyond the comprehension of humans. Although this does not remove the basic fact that, above all, algorithms are still plans or rules, it changes the form, agency, relation, and the human, non-human boundaries. This is an aspect that has not been extensively discussed within participatory design literature, but one that requires urgent and serious examination. So we propose the concept of situated automation to shed light on the need to analyze particular instances where the dynamic agency of algorithms comes into relation with human actors, citizens, and the publics, and especially when it resists automation. Early conceptualization of agency in socio-technical systems was more descriptive of what already exists, but now we need to ask how we might go beyond prescriptive or normative interventions to effectively work with different, some feral, forms of agencies, and importantly, to what end. The concept of automation continues to resonate with the early aspirations of ubiquitous computing, seamless, frictionless, anticipatory design that reduces agency and decision-making to algorithm, promising optimization and efficiency in any system. And that's antithetical to participation and any form of social, also non-human agency. Participatory design for algorithmic creatures can help remedy the injustices of outsourcing labor and decision-making to algorithms and agents while actually creating more demands for resources and enormous amounts of behind-the-scenes domain-specific labor for humans. We explore some of the core tenets of participatory design, rethinking both concepts of participation and stakeholders from the perspective of human and non-human actors with different forms of agency by thinking through participatory design about, through, and with technologies. First, PD about technologies. PD has always had an intimate connection with digital technologies through its history. It may have its roots in the early development of PD in the 70s, focusing on democracy, local knowledge, and expertise, in this case, of humans, and in situ engagement with new actors and new ideas, as well as new technologies. However, ongoing diffusion of technologies and participation called for sustained reflection and the development of new perspectives on the values, characteristics, politics, and future forms of participatory design. An example of PD about technologies is Forlano and Halpin's Reimagining Work project, which rethinks discourses around automation and the future of work. It uses PD in the form of a board game to explore historical relationships between labor and technology. Players prototype alternative possible futures for automation that would embed the current politics of activist groups working for fair and equitable work conditions, especially for the people at the margins. Many PD projects have focused on human stakeholders participating in face-to-face workshop settings, but some initiatives have used online collaboration platforms like wikis, repositories, and games to enable public participation. One of the first areas to embrace these approaches has been smart cities. A wide range of digital technologies have been developed to better utilize the same technological infrastructures used for surveillance and capitalism to engage citizens in the design of community and urban environments. Gordon and Koo's Place World uses existing platforms to promote shared understanding of place through the use of virtual worlds. Betaville is a standalone platform requiring socio-technical infrastructures for what they call massively participatory urban planning. Also, more speculative approaches have emerged, such as Superflux's fictional organization Mantis Systems and a crisis simulation game Mantis World, which together engage experts in the international development, leading to thinking critically about their assumptions and biases. Participatory design about and through technologies of automation present tactics where technologies as non-human actors are predominantly seen as tools to serve human intentions and plans. Another question that we need to be asking is how we might do participatory design with technologies that surround us, transforming the logic of binary states, yes and no, into the fuzzy states of maybes and perhaps, in which humans and non-humans may be engaged in what we call tactical automation. An example is tactical human engagement in the redundant work on the basic automation infrastructure like electronic boards, which is ironic and empowering at the same time. The one-year Arduino Clone Factory project comprises of a series of participatory workshops. It brings together local communities of makers to mass-produce the boards. So during the workshop, participants learn but also reflect on and discuss the limits of creative, or mostly design in this case, work, and their need to outsource the hardware production to factories elsewhere like Shenzhen in China. It provides critical insights into geopolitics, economy, and the future of work. So in this sense, these participatory workshops transform the physical and tedious production of the boards to a community bonding experience that supports the peer economy and a performative critique and critical reflexivity. So we refuse to accept the discourses of pre-designed frictionless futures. Instead, we argue to extend participatory design as engagement with algorithmic creatures that goes beyond the current norms and attends to the new configurations and becomings between humans and machines, infecting our bodies, settings, spaces, institutions, and cities that gesture towards the grotesque, the monstrous, and the ghastly. Participatory design with algorithmic creatures requires that we reconfigure basic questions around agency, participation, and stakeholders. In this case, transparency as a means to ensure accountability holds quite limited relevance. So as Anani and Crawford suggest, rather than privileging a type of accountability that needs to look inside systems, we could benefit from holding systems accountable by looking across them, seeing them as socio-technical systems that do not contain complexity but enact complexity by connecting to and intertwining with assemblages of humans and non-humans. This calls for the need to further broaden the scope from the fairness, accountability, and transparency-based approaches towards fostering justice, pluralism, and equity in and through enactment of assemblages of humans and other than humans. PD's long history of embracing and actively promoting unpredictability and uncertainty, both conceptually and in practice, and methodological traversing between strategies and tactics is particularly conducive to appreciating and enacting new forms of situated automation. A pertinent question for PD then is how its palpable human-centered politics can be interrogated and shifted. And answering this question calls for ways that may be unfamiliar and unconventional to the field to make sense at the nexus of participation, design, and participatory design. Care as a question of tinkering with bodies, technologies, and knowledge, and with people too, provides a useful frame for critically and creatively exploring the nexus and possible at times what may be considered other or alternative assemblages. As promised, we end the talk with some of our current thinking and questions. More and more people working on machine learning are becoming interested in participatory design. So what unique problems might the use of participatory design in machine learning raise as compared to the introduction of algorithmic creatures in PD? More than human theory relies heavily on feminist new materialist understandings of the post-human, and these perspectives have not been particularly oriented towards questions of race, while race and algorithmic discrimination has been very central to the discussion of automation. So what new concepts might an explicitly anti-racist approach take up beyond those that we have mentioned, such as equity and justice? How might we redefine the concept of interaction and participation to support creation, reflection on, and care for algorithmic creatures, which are sometimes feral, monstrous, and grotesque assemblages? Could situated automation provide an alternative to the Frankenstein story of repulsion, rejection, and revenge? What do you think? What do you want to do with algorithmic creatures and situated automation and...
With us.
Ha ha ha.